This conference will now be recorded.
Good morning. Happy New Year, everyone. I'm sorry?
Good morning.
Okay. Happy New Year. I'd like to call this annual organizational meeting, the Hudson River Black River Regulating District to order. Today's organizational and regular meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District are occurring virtually as well as at the Sacandaga Field Office and at our Hudson River area office in Albany, with most board members joining remotely and members of the public able to do so as well. The board meeting agenda is available at HRBRRD.ny.gov under board meetings. We ask that you please close other programs on your computer or phone, silence your cell phone, and mute your audio when not speaking. The conference organizer will monitor the program's chat function for public comment. Comments may also be emailed to HRAO@HRBRRD.ny.gov. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I call the organizational meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District to order. We need a motion to adopt and revise the meeting agenda.
You want to do a roll call?
Oh, yes, I missed the time here. Roll call?
Hi.
Board Chairman Mark Finkel,
Sure.
Board Member Albert Hayes. Here. Executive Director John Callahan. Here. Area Administrator John Hudson.
Here.
Compliance Officer Stephanie Rizicki. Here. First Vice Chair Jeffrey Rosenthal.
Present here.
Second Vice Chair Kenneth DeWitt.
Here.
Board Member Richard Byrd.
I'm here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie, that's me. Chief Engineer Robert Fultan.
Here.
And Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Minicha.
Here. Okay, I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda. There's no need to revise.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second that.
any further discussion?
Rosenthal, Mr.
DeWitt?
DeWitt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We now move to the election of officers. I guess, we're calling on Albert for that.
Mr. Hayes has a nomination. Yes, Mr. Chair.
For chair, we nominate Mr. Mark Finkel. Is there any motion on that?
So moved.
Second?
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. For first, congratulations, Mark.
Thank you.
For first vice chairperson, Mr. Jeffrey Rosenthal. Could I have a motion on that?
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
For second vice chairperson, Mr. Kenneth DeWitt. I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Signify by saying aye. We have staff designation. For secretary, we have Mr. Leslie.
So moved.
You can move the entire slate.
Okay.
Mr. Hayes, and you can make the motion if you care to.
All right, for secretary, we have Mr. Leslie. Treasurer, we have Mr. Manizia.
Gentlemen,
Secretary
Ken,
treasurer.
honestly, Ken, your waves are, thank you. Okay, start again, Albie, because you can't hear with the waves.
Okay. For secretary, we have Mr. Leslie. For treasurer, we have Mr. Miniccia. For assistant secretary treasurer, we have Mr. Fulton. And assistant secretary treasurer, Mr. Hudson. I have a motion on that?
I'll second.
Wait, are there two assistant secretaries and treasurer?
Yes, there are.
Okay, thank you.
In the event that one is unable to attend to their duties, there is another one available so that we can keep things moving forward.
So that would complete the election of officers.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hayes. Next is the designation of official newspapers. No change here. I'd like a motion to nominate Times Union and the Watertown Daily News as the official newspapers of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District.
So moved.
Watertown Daily,
Do we have a
Watertown
second?
Daily Times.
I'll second that.
Sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We'll call that a roll call vote, all in favor.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Does that fulfill the, okay. We have tentative dates and locations for our 2021 board meetings. February, we have no meeting scheduled. March 9th in Mayfield, April 13th in Old Forge Inlet. May, no meeting scheduled. June in Watertown. July, Indian Lake. August, no meeting scheduled. And then Tuesday, September 14th, to be decided. October 12th in Mayfield and November 9th in Mayfield. December, no meeting scheduled. And in all the months that there's no meeting scheduled, we can decide to have a special meeting if necessary. So I need a motion for those tentative dates.
Point of order, point of discussion, please.
Yeah. Go ahead.
From the governor's rollout or tentative rollout yesterday, we will still be in the midst of COVID issues. So why are we traveling to different locations?
So in each instance, during 2020, we had basically a meeting scheduled at Mayfield. But the initial schedule in 2020 rolled out just like this. In the event that there is a meeting to be held remotely, we will notice it for Mayfield as we have done in this case. And when you are remote in those remote locations, in the event that we actually have an in-person meeting, it will be at these locations like we've done in the past.
I assume always with the option to join remotely.
Yes.
From your desktop, wherever you may be.
Yes.
All right.
I think that is the new normal for state meetings and public authority meetings.
It's the new normal.
Do we have a motion to accept?
I make the motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Mr. Rosenthal, Mr. DeWitt?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any other board member comments? Not a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting?
Move.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not, the organizational meeting stands adjourned. Now, recording wise, are we ready to move right into the regular board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so let me call the January board meeting of the Hudson River Black River Regulating District to order. Roll call, Mr. Leslie.
Board Chairman Mark Finkel,
Here.
Board Member Albert Hayes,
Here.
First Vice Chair Jeffrey Rosenthal,
Here.
Second Vice Chair Kenneth DeWitt,
Here.
Board Member Richard Byrd,
Here.
Executive Director John Callahan,
Here.
Area Administrator John Hodgson,
Here.
Compliance Officer Stephanie Rizicki,
Here.
General Counsel Robert Leslie, that's me, Chief Engineer Robert Fulton.
Here.
And Chief Fiscal Officer Timothy Mnuchin.
Here.
Almost gave you a promotion.
Thank you. I need a motion to adopt the meeting agenda. No need to revise.
I make a motion to revise the agenda, either as part of 8A concerning a resolution for minimum fees that's already on the agenda, to include a discussion of the $10 administrative fee for other than online permit renewals, or as a separate item as 8D, that same issue.
Motion to accept the revised agenda.
I'll make
Is there-
that motion.
I
There's a
made the
second.
motion. I'm looking for a second.
Okay, I'll
you got
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, I just want to clarify for the secretary's benefit, what's your preference, Mr. Rosenthal, that we cover that in a separate 8D or tie it into the discussion relative to 8A?
I don't think it is of consequence wherever it falls.
Mr. Secretary, do you then have a preference?
My preference would be to address any issue with regard to the resolution concerning the minimum fee for special association permittees. If that resolution is to be modified to also address another issue, we could handle it all together.
I certainly have no objection to that.
Roger that. Thank you.
We will do it. We have no guests to introduce. Is there anyone for public comment? I see some people from the community here. Any public comment?
I don't
Mr.
see their
Chairman,
photos. They're
Mr.
not
Chairman,
on.
I'll just ask, I'll pause here and ask our administrator, Gina Bowman, if she's had anybody sign up for public comment. I know that she did reach out to the participants, so if we give her 5 seconds just to weigh in here, we'll be able to determine that.
I have not received any information that anyone would like to comment. Let me unmute the mics and see if anybody would like to comment. If you just give me a second, please.
Dick Smith. I'd just like to congratulate you all for the election and thank you all for your service and your high-paid job.
Thank you. Appreciated. Any other comments? Then I need approval of our November 1st, 2020 regular board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Accept. I'm sorry, motion to accept?
I'll
Aye.
second. There was a there was a,
Oh, okay, I didn't hear it. Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report of our executive director, Mr. Callahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy New Year, everyone. My report can be found on page 9, and I'll just highlight a couple of issues, if I may. First, I know that we're going to get into a great deal of welcome discussion on the new permit system and the increase in fees. I do want to note the great job on the part of staff, Stephanie Rizicki, along with our departed colleagues, or retired colleagues, I should say, not departed. Certainly Mr. Ferrara and Sue Visco, working for years along with John Hodgson in developing this database, other members of the staff, Danielle Thorne, Dan Kiskis, Stephanie Porter, really taking the laboring oar here to get this over the finish line. I do note that as of today, Mr. Hodgson and 3 of our board members have renewed successfully online, taking us into another era. We certainly, and I think I don't want to take any thunder, steal any thunder from the subsequent discussion, but we've got an imperfect system that is better than it was when we started. It is not as good as it will be a year from now or 2 years from now, but certainly getting into not just the 21st century, but frankly the 20th has been a major milestone and built on the foundation of a lot of good work that was done before I got here. And frankly, it hasn't been the simplest thing to put together, but I think the product is good and we'll continue to make it better with your help. So very happy to announce that system, after a long time, is live, and we've got some work to do, as I think we'll hear in a few minutes going forward. So thank you for that. I just also do want to note that not unlike the outreach to state agencies and authorities last spring, looking for help with getting people together with their very important unemployment insurance benefits. That was an effort that involved a lot of the state workforce, not just the Department of Labor personnel, but we have gotten a similar call, agencies and authorities, to assist with vaccination. A lot of this is administrative work, logistics work, operational work. We've had 2 of our team members volunteer to be called into that effort, and it will consume, I think, a nearly full-time schedule if and when that begins. They haven't been activated, quote unquote, but I certainly want to thank Matt Ginter, and I certainly want to thank Rob Leslie for volunteering to be a part of that effort. And I want to thank Stephanie Rizicki for agreeing to coordinate, be our point of contact on that effort. So with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'll pause and appreciate any questions or comments you might have.
Any questions for the director? If not, let's move on to, I'm sorry, what?
Nope. Belay my last.
I said, is there any comments for the director? Questions? All right, we'll move on to contracts. First one is a resolution to provide minimum fee for certain special association permittees with fewer than 4 boats effective January 1st, 2021. Again, Mr. Callahan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, going back to our earlier conversation, I want to also thank counsel, Mr. Leslie, who worked with a lot of the aforementioned team members to really unpack, looking at a number of years, a number of resolutions, regulations in effect, and also carefully considering the SAPA, State Administrative Procedures Act issue, whether or not we would have to go down that route. Fortunately, the current regulations provide for a means to update the permit schedule So we didn't have to go through a rulemaking process, because unless we needed to change individual components of those fees and the regulations. So in doing that, thanks to General Counsel's great work, we did identify each and every fee that was established in reg number 1 and also previous board authorizations. As always, when you go through something like this that's comprehensive, that takes a long time, and that seeks to sort of promulgate all these different authorizations from past years into a fresh start going forward, and one-stop shopping, if you will. We did miss something, and it's something that affects just 10 permittees around the reservoir, and it affects permittees that are special associations that would have fewer than 4 boats, so 3 boats or fewer. Most associations have more boats than that, so they are charged not just the permit with fee, but also a per boat or per slip fee, which the board will recall as part of the overall adjustment to the fee schedule. We did raise. We raised those on the commercial side from $41 per slip/boat to $45 per slip/boat. But there was a previous discount, maybe not established in the resolution necessarily, right, Counselor? But it was there.
No, it was in page 5 of a 1991 resolution, page 5 of 9 or something like that.
So that was discounted from the commercial rate to $26, and that's gone from $26 to $30. What we did not have as part of the schedule authorized by the board in September was this carve out for special associations that are fewer than 4 boats, so 3 boats or fewer. That was a flat rate, a so-called minimum fee, and that was $90 as opposed to the commercial rate of $150. We've moved that commercial rate to $175. Absent some action by the board today, that would become the rate for the association minimum fee as well. We certainly don't want to do that. It would be contrary to our intent in the fee adjustment of proportionally discounting those rates for the associations. So we're proposing an increase in that rate to go along with the increase for boats or slips greater than 4 in number. We're proposing an increase in the minimum fee from $90 to $100. This was a miss. I'm sorry we missed it, but we don't want to penalize those associations for our mistake. And now, and I don't know, I'll defer to Mr. Rosenthal and Mr. Leslie as to when to get into the other discussion that Mr. Rosenthal and I have discussed on the phone, whether it's now or after a motion in general discussion. But I will pause here and for any comments or questions.
Well, before we get into the broader issue of the $10 administrative fee, for me, it begs the question, if the association pays online, assuming all other substantive requirements exist, do they also eliminate the $10 administrative fee?
So the answer is yes, Mr. Rosenthal. Our fee schedule notes that administrative fees for renewals are waived. If the renewals are done online, that's across the board.
Okay. You want to roll right into the broader issue of the $10?
Yeah, basically, we have a resolution before us addressing this one issue regarding special associations. That resolution would make a technical correction to the fee structure put in place in September and to be effective as of January 1. Your issue with regard to the $10 is also pertains to that fee schedule and was also adopted in September with the expectation it would be effective January 1.
Okay,
And therefore, as a technical correction in and of itself, I think it sits well within this resolution. Makes sense to me that if you choose to modify the draft resolution to also address this issue, that it be addressed right here.
I'll still move to make that technical change.
Okay, we have a second.
Okay, so what technical change would you like to make?
The technical change that Mr. Callahan expressed with regard to, I guess they're called special associations that have fewer than 4 boats.
Okay, that's what the resolution reads now. Are
Fine,
you
and
looking
let's
to modify?
move, why don't we move that? Why don't we move that and adopt it? Because any discussion that may more broadly address the $10 certainly will then concern this technical amendment. It may or may not, but
Okay,
this one's more of a housekeeping issue.
right. What I'm thinking is you've got a resolution on the board right now. And if that resolution passes, it does not address your $10 issue. But if you want to address that $10 issue as part of the resolution on the floor right now, you could modify that resolution to insert a new paragraph addressing any change to the $10 that you see fit.
Well, I don't want to get hung up in procedural issues. So I'll just move forward with my discussion, which I have as a discussion item, which addresses this. And for the benefit of those that were not involved in the discussion, what happened yesterday is and this part of it has been remedied. I went online to pay my backlot permit fee. It was my understanding that the fee increased from it's $43 to $50. However, when I went online and I went to pay, it told me my fee was $60, $10 greater than what I had thought we passed as a resolution back in May, I believe, or June. It escapes me now. And it was only after a lengthy and somewhat heated discussion with Mr. Callahan and with Mr. Leslie, passing on and expressing my concerns to fellow board members Finkel and DeWitt, that a change was made to the site so that a quote discount for paying online was incorporated into the program and it was more upfront. So for me, because I paid online, it waived or excluded the additional $10 administrative fee. That did not answer my concern or address my concern that in polling my fellow board members through miscommunication or because of the breadth of the whole exercise and being presented to the board, I was unaware that across the board, if you don't pay online, there is an extra $10 administrative fee. It may not on its face seem like a huge amount of money. For a backlot permit, that $10 fee plus the increase equates about 42% plus or minus. Moreover, my understanding that was that the fees presented to us were done so because of the increase in administrative fees. And therefore, in my case, the fee from $43 to $50 was supported by the increase in administrative fees. It was only when I went online did I learn that apparently this was presented to us and back in May or whenever, and similarly or also was part of the elements that supported the increase. So in thinking about this, my view is it has taken in excess of 11 years to get to this point that we have online, and yet we're rolling this out and punishing those people who either don't have the capability to go online and pay, or come in and pay by cash, or send in their check. And now with the advancement of the use of credit cards, if they come into the office and pay by credit card, they are exposed to an additional $10. And I thought as a issue of fundamental fairness that it simply was not fair, that a small percentage of those are going to get the benefit by going online, who are savvy, who are paying attention, who have family members accounting for this. And while I understand the need for this in the long term, I'm concerned that we're rolling this out so rapidly.
So,
I've
Mr.
left everybody
Rosenthal, would
dead
you,
silent.
Mr.
Go ahead,
Rosenthal, would you entertain some response?
Oh, I'm not here to make a motion to undermine what I know must be or must have been included in the budget proposals that go out 3 years, that undoubtedly were presented to us. I'm not blaming anyone. If anyone is at least partially to blame, I also am to blame. But I polled 2 of my fellow board members who are permit holders, and my understanding, unless they've come to a different conclusions, they too were unaware of this additional $10 administrative fee. So yeah, I'm open for discussion, and I want to add one thing so that the record is clear. I also had a very productive and lengthy discussion with our counsel, and I stand by the fact that I applaud his efforts for this huge undertaking, which has never been in a concise, singularly located format where if you need to do something on the lake, you can find out what the fees are. I don't want to diminish that effort. I'm just concerned that we have this on its face is only $10, but it's not only $10. So with that, Mr. Executive Director, yeah, I'm open for discussion. I'm not open at this time or intending to make some motion.
Well, I appreciate that, Mr. Rosenthal, and I appreciated both of our discussions yesterday, which were very frank, and I think in which you raised some reasonable concerns, which I partially addressed maybe, but for the edification of everyone, just like to note a couple of things. One, going back to this effort that you rightly laud Chief Counsel for, the regulations don't set fees for every category. That's the board's responsibility, but it does set every category, or there's a basis for every fee we charge. And one of the challenges I presented to Mr. Leslie last year, he'll recall, is I don't want to have to go through rulemaking on this. I think it does. I think we can have a very open, transparent process where we bring our stakeholder organizations in, we bring the commercial sector in, we talk about it. After we talk about it, we revise, all of which we did. But in so doing, there were fees identified that were not that were on the books, had an amount attached to them, and that were not being charged at that time. One of which was the administrative fee. We did not change the fee. It was $10. It remains $10. And I just note, if I may, that 60665C of the regulations indicate that this administrative fee is to defray clerical and other incidental expenses in connection with the application. And the thought is, and
606.6?
it's 606.65C.
Okay.
And our intent was here, Mr. Rosenthal, members of the board, that we did not, in rolling out this online system, we knew that we would not have the same clerical and other incidental expenses normally associated with the moving around that typically occurs with, for instance, a renewal. So opening an envelope, taking a check to the bank, all that stuff, the online permit system is designed to obviate, and eventually, when I hope everybody goes to it, and I understand we're not there yet. And to the extent then we wanted to incentivize people to use that permit system, we, in the letters that are going out to every permit holder this year, we drew attention in bold and underline in a particular bullet. Please note that permit fees have changed for 2021, and we talk about the administrative fee, which will be waived if you renew online. My mistake was in asking the board to go online and go through this process so we could have the benefit of your experience in making further tweaks, was that you did not have this letter in front of you. That's one mistake. And that led to a couple of issues. Number one, Mr. Rosenthal, one of the things you expressed to me was you were unpleasantly surprised. It was not what you expected to see. You didn't have the benefit of this letter, as imperfect again as it may be. But the other issue is we had already asked you in the fall to establish an online account, to try that out, give us some feedback on that. So when a number of you, and this happened with Mr. Hodgson, also attempted to log on, it was competing with that account that was already established with an existing email address for each and every one of you. So a couple of errors that I take responsibility for in just asking you to get on and test the system. It's a small victory, I grant.
Your big mistake was asking a technophobe such as myself to do it.
But I think what you, this letter notwithstanding, that tells you all about the administrative fee and the fact that it's waived if you renew online, was that first screen you went to. And my next call after speaking to you was with our consultant, Beth at IMC, was to say, we can't just have that appear on the payment screen because you immediately see a fee that you didn't expect to see. So whether or not you have this letter, that's gonna be a surprise. We could and did, as you I think mentioned earlier, do a better job in the visual, the optics of how that looks, and the fact that that's itemized out. I just want to also note, if I can, one of the things we discussed, Mr. Rosenthal, was maybe delaying implementation, re-implementation of the $10 administrative fee. I just want to be honest with the board about the administrative issues that doing it in that particular way would create, as we have people waiting for renewals, we have them waiting to go out the door, and currently we're still stuffing 4,800 some odd envelopes, which I was happy to take a little bit apart. My colleagues said I was about 80% slower than most of the other staff, but I still did 100 or so. I think it's a legitimate concern. I hope that if you do, Mr. Rosenthal, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, want to go forward with some means of holding mail and in-person renewals harmless this year, that we could work with our consultant to do it another way, whether that's a credit against an account, an existing account, or something forward-looking. But I do want to say, for my own purpose, in developing these new rates, our sole objective, and I know that part of the criticism in recent years has been, well, it's a money grab. We're trying to provide flood protection on the backs of the Great Sacandaga Lake permit holders. that's why it was so important, I think, to bring everybody in, including the Sacandaga Protection Committee, as I know they're represented today on this call, and talk honestly, openly about what this system is, and to better align then our expenses with not just the administrative costs relative to the permit system, but all the costs that are specific to that permit system, the operational costs, the great work that Dan and Danielle do every day. And I think to the extent we were able to keep those incremental increases on the footage rates very, very, I would say modest, very low, then proportionally reintroducing, not reestablishing because it's been on the books all along, but this $10 administrative fee to recognize the additional administrative process work that will be attendant to those in-person and mail renewals is reasonable, rather than trying to spread that out over the whole permittee base, especially when we are, and I would hope continue to do, waive that fee for online renewals. So that's a very brief and probably incomplete response to your valid concern, but I just introduced that for purposes of furthering this important discussion.
Well, I would like to reply for purposes of the discussions in a positive manner. First of all, those in the know recognize that what we pay as permit holders, whether we're backlotters with 10 feet or those with huge waterfront permits, are paying, I shouldn't say this, but very nominal amounts compared to the luxury of having property on a lake in the Adirondacks. So the amount itself is not, for me, and I respectfully submit for the other permit holders, the issue. The second thing that I'm very concerned about, and as the result of the discussion with Mr. Leslie and yourself, I understand that efforts to turn back the clock would do nothing more than undermine the extensive effort that has gone into this exercise to come to the point that we are, because you'll have greater administrative fees to write checks to people, to account for credits, to do a whole host of things which defeats this effort. And that's not my goal. That is not my purpose. I had an education, shall we say, in these discussions. And I'm just concerned that the general public out there will respond in an even more animated way than I did when I first saw that online, when they received these paper notices that, well, we haven't been imposing this $10 administrative fee and we're increasing your fee, and now we're rolling in this we're rolling back in this administrative fee. I'm concerned that the backlash we're going to receive. And I'm open to hear from other board members. Frankly, I'm open to hear from some of the guests. I don't see them, but I see their names, what their feelings are on this, if any.
I have a question. In the letter that's going out, are we offering help to people who are trying to do it online? Is there a help piece of this?
So we do have, yeah, Mr. Chairman, so we do have 2 email addresses that people can access for questions about the permits, and we have gotten some of those inquiries in already. One is our regular sacfo@hrbRRD.ny.gov email address for Sacandaga Field Office. The other is permits at the same URL, and that is the email address that, for those of you who have renewed online and gotten an email confirmation, you would have seen. So the last sentence of that letter is for any assistance or with any questions regarding the above process, please call our Sacandaga Field Office at 518-661-5535 or sacfo@hrbRD.ny.gov. And we do anticipate a high volume with any rollout like this, we've talked about additional staff having access to the spreadsheets that include, for instance, the special codes, which we do anticipate will be a question that people have. Where's that confirmation email? You know, and talking with our consultant, that's a common thing. That's a necessary two-step process for security. But I think you yourself, Mr. Chairman, maybe didn't quite get that confirmation email right off the bat. We're wondering about that. So those are the types of questions we've anticipated. There will be other questions that we don't anticipate, but we believe we're prepared to handle those inquiries.
Could somebody, and this is let's say somebody doesn't have a computer, could they come into the field office and still be able to, let's say, get online there and do a renewal?
So that's a great question, Mr. Chairman, one we have not considered, and one that we'd have to carefully consider in the context of COVID-19 restrictions, because that would be then a workstation that multiple people would come in and use. With the caveat, we would have to look at how that would work and whether or not that's in conflict with any state guidelines. That's certainly something we could do, subject to those restrictions or guidelines that might be temporarily in place due to COVID-19. But it's a great idea and something we could message. And I do want to note, if I can, as an additional, in response to your question, and then going back to some of Mr. Rosenthal's questions, in addition to this letter, in conjunction with sending the mailings out, we have already in our newsletter and social media, we've talked a lot about both of these. We've talked a lot about the permit fee adjustments and the new online permit system. But in the coming days and weeks, we'll do a lot of targeted social media on the permit system itself, what it looks like, how it works. We have not done that yet, nor will you see, if you go to our website today, online permit system that you could click on, because before people have their renewal forms with their one-time special code to log in and establish an account, we don't want to drive people to the site that aren't yet equipped with the information to establish their account. So it's sort of a chicken and egg, carefully choreographed thing, but we are going to do additional outreach on the system.
Okay, fine. And I was thinking more, down the road in the future, not, the time past COVID, if that ever happens.
No doubt.
Okay.
Just a great suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I just want to add to the discussion that's probably what shouldn't be lost. Once the wrinkles were ironed out, it was smooth as silk. Going online, applying for the permit, entering your access code, paying with a credit card. I mean, at the end of the day, I would encourage everybody to do that, and it was really a time saver from the homeowner's administrative end. Boom, 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 you're done.
This is Dick Smith. Can I interject something?
Sure.
Please, Dick.
Yeah, I was involved, I think, in all of the conversations during the development of this increase in fees. And this was addressed at that time. And obviously, to accomplish the goals of the regulating district, we have to encourage people to use the system, or else there aren't going to be, the savings that we anticipated. And I think that most people understand that everybody is being forced to use their computers to go online to do these types of things. If you've got an investment account or a bank account, just about every month they're trying to get you to go online and get your statements that way. I think if the website is well designed, and I have not seen that, Jeffrey has experienced that, and with the modifications, he says that's good. I take his word for it. I think if it's clear when you go online, what your rate is going to be because you went online right up front. So there isn't a question of whether you're paying $60 or $50. I think this will take a little bit of getting used to, but I think to delay it now and then try and go through with this $10 thing at a future time is probably buying more problems than you really want to get into. So I would move ahead with it, but I would just make sure that it's pretty clear on the website, when you get your bill, how that works.
I agree.
Well, having heard from you, Dick, that allays all of my concerns, because in the spirit of transparency, I know that it's been a huge effort to make sure that the advocacy groups are included in the process. And that speaks volumes for me. So I will withdraw my concerns based on, sincerely, I mean, transparency for me was the #1 issue when I came on the board. That answers my concern on this issue, right there.
By the way, I just want to echo, I also renewed yesterday, and it was a very smooth process. Once we got over, there was some initial thing, well, the thing about the account number already being in. Once we got past that, it was a snap. So most people won't run into that.
I know, and of course, hindsight's 2020. Obviously now, and it wouldn't have addressed all of Mr. Rosenthal's concerns, certainly, but had everybody been armed with their individual renewal letter, and if we had gone through and deleted that previously set up account, there would have been fewer issues. So it's a special case. But even going through that process, whether Mr. DeWitt, Mr. Rosenthal, Chairman Finkel, you all had very important feedback, as did Mr. Hodgson, that made this thing even better. And again, as we get feedback, we have the ability to fine tune it and make it better still. So we appreciate that very much.
Fair enough.
With that, if there's no more discussion.
Just a comment from Ken.
Sure, Ken, I'm sorry.
When I finally paid my bill, the cost actually was $85, and I wasn't looking at the price of it because I didn't know what the increase was going to be. But once it took my information, it dropped it down to $75. So there might be some people out there thinking they're going to be paying, the $85 online, when in fact I don't know. We're in that step. I think it was after I added all my information, then that $10 was taken off.
Yeah,
That's a good remedy, Ken.
Mr. was made. It now shows 85 less 10, 75. If you were to do it today, that's what it did when I went on.
Yeah, that was immediately remedied. So as soon as you get your permit amount, in bold letters right below it, it says to the effect, an additional $10 administrative fee is waived by going online.
Okay.
That's what raised my blood pressure, because it appeared it was $10 more than I anticipated. But now there's an immediate disclosure that says, oh, wait a minute, you're going online, you're getting $10 off of that. So that helped a lot.
Well, another thing was, Rob, when talking to Jeffrey yesterday or the day before, I don't remember. So I went online just to look at some of the text from past meetings and everything. And you, at one of the meetings, said that you're going to post those fees online, and I couldn't find that.
Yeah, they're on the website under the permit page.
GSL access permit system. It's one of the options on the main page. Click on that, and that includes a number of links, which includes the entire 2021 fee schedule. If that, we may want to think then, Mr. DeWitt, if you had issues finding it, to make that a little more prominent especially given some of what we're going through currently, and we can certainly do that. But it is posted. It's been posted since as 2021 rates since the board took that action in September.
Okay, I just couldn't find it. I tried to, under permits, I tried to click on all of those hot buttons, and nothing came up, so I don't know. Maybe it's a user error.
Yeah, if you couldn't find it, other people will have the same issue. God bless, certainly. So we'll endeavor to make that more prominently featured.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off, Ken. I apologize.
No problem.
Further discussion? If not, a motion to provide that minimum fee for the special association permittees. Motion?
So moved. Didn't we do this already, Mr. Leslie?
We didn't.
No?
No, I
Oh,
don't-
so moved.
Okay,
So
I'll
moved.
second.
Any further
Mr.
discussion?
DeWitt, Mr. Rosenthal, Mr. DeWitt.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Now we need a resolution authorizing the executive director to contract with diesel emission services to retrofit the international dump truck with emissions reductions technology. Mr. Callahan.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. This resolution is in your packet. Just briefly, there was a Diesel Emissions Reduction Act of 2006 passed by the New York State Legislature and signed into law. That required certain heavy emissions vehicles to be replaced or retrofitted to reduce the amount of harmful emissions. We had, over the years, applied for waivers when they were available, the last of which, and received those waivers, thanks to Stephanie Rizicki's work, the last of which was expired this past December 31st. So, excuse me, I'm just doing some screen work here. So we have identified through the great work of staff, most significantly, I want to call out Mike Chase, who works here at SFO, has done a yeoman's job in finding a company to provide, number one, a data logger that would tell this company what level of emissions retrofit it would prescribe and qualify for, and then sent that back to the company, and they have provided a quote to get this work done. So our 2004 truck will again be compliant in the amount of $15,340.94. I do note that the older dump truck that we have here at SFO was not eligible for a retrofit, and as such, it will, in our next round, go to our friends at OGS for public auction, which will result in some revenue. Certainly discussions ongoing with the operations staff about how to supplement and account for the loss of that second vehicle here going forward with our operations. But for now, the task at hand is to get this 2004 international into compliance. So I'd ask the board support on this resolution, and certainly pause for any questions or comments.
Do we need an amount on there?
Yeah, it is in the resolution, Mr. Chairman. It's $15,340.94.
Okay, so I need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Mr. DeWitt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now we need a resolution to approve the transfers in the fiscal year 20 to 21 budget. Mr. Manisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The budget for the current triennial, which was approved by the board back in June of 2018, did not include appropriations for necessary spending in these three engineering services accounts in the current fiscal year. It did include appropriations for debt service accounts that will not be needed, as the district does not yet issue debt to finance infrastructure investment at Old Ford, 6 Lake, or Hawkinsville. We therefore ask the board to authorize the transfer of funds from these debt service accounts to the engineering service accounts, so the district does not expend funds in these accounts without the necessary board authorization.
Very good. Motion to that effect?
I will.
Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Rosenthal, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Now the staff and committee reports. General Counsel, Mr. Leslie.
So the Attorney General has approved the Walden contract with respect to the valuation of the 56 feet of head at Conklinville. We are awaiting approval from the Office of State Comptroller. I'd like to thank Mrs. Rizicki for addressing their request for documentation on that. Hopefully we'll have that relatively quickly. The end of December and the beginning of January had a spate of several FOIL requests that we addressed. Nothing really of note, but a data miner, I think from Florida, is looking for information on all of our employees. We tried to be as compliant as we could be. We continue to work with state archives. That's taken a bit of a back seat as contact over there, I think, has been on vacation. And at this point, looks like, as Mr. Rosenthal indicated earlier, future meetings will continue to be conducted online. Any questions that I could address?
Any questions for Mr. Leslie?
None.
Thank you, sir. Compliance Office, Mr. Zicke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 19. On pages 20 to 22, you will find the contract status sheets. They are there for your review and satisfy the public authority requirement. Highlights for the reporting period include the approval of the district's annual MWBE goal plan for fiscal year 2021 by the Division of Minority Women and Business Development. Our goal plan for fiscal year 21-22 is in the works and will be submitted this week. One of the things to report, I performed the quarterly Hudson River area internal control compliance audit. I reviewed a random selection of vouchers. All appropriate measures are in place and all processing is accurate. If you have any questions, if not, that completes my report.
Any questions? Thank you. Chief Fiscal Officer, Mr. Minicha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The CFO report can be found on page 23 of your packet. As we reach the halfway mark of the current fiscal year, I'm happy to report that the district has net revenue of over $408,000. That is larger than we showed at the same period last year. Almost all of the improvement is on the expenditure side. Expect that the savings to date in the personnel and employee benefits category will recur, given the fairly constant nature of those expenses. Our contractual services spending is a little bit lumpier, so we're not exactly sure that saving through the first 6 months will still be there at the end of the year. I will obviously be monitoring all of that quite closely. The only other thing I'd like to mention is that we have a slightly revised format to the CFO report starting this month. We've added a column to make it easier for the board to track the budget transfer that you have made today, that you made at the November 2020 meeting, and that you may make in the future. Having shared those thoughts, I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Any questions for Mr. Minicha?
Nope.
On Chief Engineer, Mr. Fulton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My report begins on page 45. The end of November and the beginning of December showed us an increase in precipitation in both areas, allowed certain Great Sacandaga Lake and Stillwater Reservoir to return to the target elevation, respective target elevations at those facilities by the beginning of December. Fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, depending on how you look at it, the end of December was highlighted by fairly significant runoff event, rain on top of the snow that we had in all of our watershed. And we've consequently gone over our target elevations by several feet and are now bringing the reservoirs back down from those high inflows of December 24th through December 26th. I will note that Great Sacandaga Lake saw a daily average inflow of over 26,000 cubic feet per second on the 25th of December, coming up, rising more than 2 feet in that 24-hour period. And we had a peak 6-hour average inflow of over 37,000 CFS into the Great Sacandaga Lake. Had that flow in that 6-hour window moved downstream into the Hudson River, the Hudson at Fort Edward would theoretically have risen more than 7.8 feet above the flood stage that it did experience, moving it from a minor flood stage to 4 feet over major flood stage. So the benefits of Sacandaga were greatly realized as a result of, in that particular storm. And otherwise, we're now seeing greatly reduced inflows and are continuing to pull the reservoir elevations down across the board, consistent with our normal wintertime drawdown. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Ray Letterman from the Fulton Chain of Lakes Association. Have you heard anything from your engineers about the Sixth Lake and First Lake dams?
Our consultants continue to complete their analysis and development of conceptual design, remediation design, and hopefully sometime this year we'll see some draft reports in that regard.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I just want to just add to the chief engineer's excellent report. He also, at my request, did some modeling for areas downstream, Rensselaer, Saratoga, and Albany counties, where the influence of our flood protection was less pronounced, but still resulted in, if memory serves, about 1.5 foot reduction in peak flood level. And as a resident of the floodplain down in that area, I can certainly attest to the fact that that's the difference between some nuisance flooding, maybe minor flooding or action stage inundation in some streets, and water coming into people's homes. So we took advantage of that great information from the chief engineer to highlight that important flood protection on our social media channels, and that was very heavily viewed and shared. So I want to thank him again for that information. Really an important illustration of the benefits we provide to those downstream communities, not just in the spring, but it could be any time of the year.
Yep, very good. Any other comments? If not, Area Administrator, Mr. Hodgins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to comment on Rob's releases. I was out on the lake this past weekend ice fishing and releasing 4,000 cubic feet a second. My shanty shook a couple times. So,
You sure it wasn't that big fish you had on the line?
I know it wasn't that. So my report starts on page 79. Participated in the annual emergency plan training and for the Hudson River and Black River area and annual employee training. Staff at SFO has been busy preparing, as you know, the 2021 access permit renewals and getting them ready for them, along with some training corresponded with that. Snow surveys have started in the Hudson and Black River areas. Staff goes out every 2 weeks and takes the readings from 36 different locations in our watersheds. That's all I have on my report. I'd be glad to answer any questions anybody may have.
Any questions? Very good. Thank you, Mr. Hodges. Any board member questions or comments? Anything else? Anything we haven't covered? If not, I need a resolution for our next board meeting, which is March 9th in Mayfield. And note that there is no February meeting. I need a motion for that meeting.
Moved, so moved.
Second, Mr. DeWitt. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I need a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.